When the asparagus is up and ready to go, you know it's spring, and that's what we've got today. We've got some fresh asparagus from the Stillwater Farmers Market this time. If you aren't growing it, then go to a farmer's market near you, because you're going to find much better quality and fresher than you'll find in the supermarket, which means it's going to last longer for you at home, as well as be tastier, and you're going to have less that you have to snap off. In fact, this asparagus is so nice, there's really nothing to snap off at all. So I was really fortunate in that regard. So you can buy a little bit less. If the price is a little bit higher than the market, you're still good. Now, the other thing to know about asparagus, other than you need to snap off the tough end, is that you need to wash it well, but you don't have to peel. Asparagus, it will cook down fine once you get that tough bit off. Just make sure you wash it well, because it may have some grit on it. So use a little bit of finger action on there to get some rubbing action and get any grit that might be present to go away. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to separate the base of the stem from the part that would leaf out later. This part up here, the crown, is going to cook much more quickly than this part will, and so we're going to cut this off. We're also going to make a chilled asparagus and mustard herb vinaigrette salad, and so we want the pieces to be small anyway. It's going to be much easier for people to eat it. So I've gone ahead and cut into about 1 to 2 inch pieces, cut them on the angle if you want them to look a little bit fancier. And then we're going to blanch these. We want to just take a little bit of the raw flavor off, although I must admit I like them raw as well. So we're going to put it in some boiling water, and the entire stalk needs to cook in that boiling water or blanch for about 3 minutes. But I'm only going to put the stalk part in first and let them cook for about 1.5 minutes. And then we'll go ahead and add the crowns in there, and that will let them cook up also, but it won't let them overcook. If we put everything in all at one time, then the crowns might be a little bit mushier. Now, another thing you want to look at when you're cooking asparagus is how thick the stem is. As you'll notice here, we have some variation. If you just look at the bottom part there, you can see some variation in the amount of thickness of the stem. It really doesn't matter, other than personal preference, which one you use, but whichever one you do use, you want to try and have similar varieties or similar thicknesses in the pot at the same time. Obviously, if you throw in the little thin ones with the thicker ones, these are going to get cooked too quickly or overcooked, or these aren't going to be quite done enough. Also, sometimes people will like the really thin ones if they're making salad, because they blend in better, a little bit easier to work with, but the thicker ones work just as well. So whichever kind you have, it's going to work great. All right, these have cooked for a little bit. We're going to add the crowns in there and also let them get blanching. Again, it's just not going to take very long at all for that to take place. But we're going to go ahead, and while that occurs, we're going ahead and get the vinaigrette started. And the vinaigrette you can actually do a day ahead. It will keep for up to 24 hours in your refrigerator. So start it when you're ready. I'm going to use a tablespoon of white wine vinegar. You could use cider vinegar for this. I've got, a teaspoon of Dijon style mustard. You could use a spicier mustard if you wanted. I tend to not want something that's got a super amount of spice, because I like the flavor of the asparagus so much, and it's fairly mild. I don't want to overdo it. I'm going to say this is done. It's gotten a nice bright color. I use this pot because I can get it over and drain it really well. We want to stop the cooking, just like you would if you were freezing broccoli. So I'm going to put it into a colander. With this kind of a pan, you might treat it another way as well. And then you could either put it in an ice bath or just run some cold water over it, just to get the cooking stopped. Again, I don't want to do this too far ahead of time, as far as doing the cooking and then mixing it with the vinaigrette, because the vinaigrette does have some acid in it, and it's going to cause the asparagus to kind of get that olive drab color. And it's such a great vegetable, we don't want that to happen. So let's go back and work on our vinaigrette a little bit more. To that, I've got a 1/2 teaspoon of chopped up flat leaf parsley, 1/4 teaspoon of dried tarragon leaves. I got about 1/8 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now, you may want to save the salt until later. I actually cut the salt back quite a bit from the first time I did it. It originally called for 1/2 teaspoon. I went ahead and used about 1/4 to 1/8 teaspoon of black pepper. And then I also modified the recipe a little bit in that it called for garlic powder. And I went ahead and just used a tiny bit of actual garlic, but I'm going to use a little bit of onion powder. That's about, let me see, about a fourth to a half of a teaspoon. And again, this is a bit vinaigrette, so you can make a choice on how you want that to taste. And we'll mix those up just a little bit before we start adding the olive oil. And I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of olive oil to this and just whisk that in. I don't have a whisk on me right at the moment, so we're just going to go ahead and stir it with a spoon. At least use a fork to make sure that you get that well blended in there. And remember, you can do this up to 24 hours ahead. That would give time for that garlic flavor to come out of the garlic and blend in with everything else a little bit better. Stir the last of that olive oil in. And now we're ready to plate it. It's very simple. You could either individual plates with this, or you can make a platter and have everybody coming to you and dishing it out there. Now, one thing you might want to do before you add the dressing is pat that dry a little bit. And then it's simply a matter of drizzling some of the vinaigrette over the top and then passing the rest so that people can get the amount of vinaigrette that they like. It's a really easy way to do it if you can break yourself away from simply having just plain old asparagus with a little bit of salt, which is my absolute favorite. I hope you'll give chilled asparagus with mustard herb vinaigrette a try.